So in this video we're going to cover Nessus, and as you can see here on my desktop I have my internet browser open and I'm at tenable.com. You can also go to Google and just type in Nessus or Tenable Nessus and you should be able to get here. Now because I'm in a VM I need to change my VM settings because I need to get on the internet, and with Tenable we have to register and we have to activate it while we're online. So we'll go over that too. So as you can see, my network adapter, I've moved it from host only to NAT. And also, depending on if you how you guys followed along in previous videos, we can also pull up an ifconfig. And as you can see, I have a 172 address. It's not my normal 192, so I am natted. Now, you will have to probably reboot your Kali. There's ways that we can restart the network and that sort of thing, but every time I do, it does not restart it properly. I usually have to reboot it. I don't know, in Ubuntu and in other distros I can restart the networking no problem, but for whatever reasons I have problems with Kali when I try to restart networking, so we have to reboot a lot of the times. But we can do a nano/etc/network/interfaces. And this is if you followed the videos along before. Earlier on we went into this interfaces config file and we added our lab configuration, and as you can see I've hashed everything out. So basically when I go to reboot the computer, it's not going to pull, it's not going to ask for this IP address. And the issue with setting a static IP and then using NAT is I really haven't had any luck doing that at all. I think there was one time where I actually was on NAT, but I don't think the IP address matters. But I do know that if I don't switch it over, I still can't get on the internet. And I think it has to do with because I'm trying to request this IP address. And my main network is not on this range. But anyways, we will just tab or hash all those out if you've done that. And we're going to hit Control X to exit. Of course, if you've made any changes, you're going to have to press Y to save. And then just hit enter after that, and don't rename it or anything like that, just hit enter and we should come back to the terminal. So after that you would just do a reboot, and once you reboot then we should be good to go. Now I already have Nessus installed, and Nessus basically installs a server. It installs a Nessus server on your machine. It's going to run off of a particular port number, and how we activate Nessus, or how do we use Nessus, is we do it through a browser off of that port number, and it loads up a nice interface and everything like that. So Nessus used to be free. It's not free anymore. You get a 7-day evaluation, and after the 7 days you have to purchase it. Now when you register, the only thing that really is important is the email address. You're going to need a valid email address because they're going to email you a activation key, and you have to be online. There's no tricks or anything to kind of snake your way around that. Now I'm going to go to google.com and we'll just go to Tenable Nessus, and we'll go to just tenable.com, and then I'm going to click on download way over here, or you can click on products right here, and we want the Nessus vulnerability scanner. And of course we can buy it. Now if you were a pen tester, if you started your own business or something like that, it is pricey. I believe it's around $1,500 a year. It's not like you buy it and then it's yours forever. You download it, but you have to have a license that activates it. So $1,500 a year. But I'm telling you what, if you did this every day, I mean, if you had clients and you did pen tests, or if you were just assessing networks and making recommendations, finding vulnerabilities, Nessus by far is my favorite vulnerability scanner as far as a whole GUI and interface and everything. I mean, there's so much that it helps you with. It's awesome. Now, I don't get paid by Nessus. I don't know anybody that works at Nessus or Tenable. I have no idea. But just really from me to you, I'm going to favor Nessus. Now, there's going to be another scanner that we're also going to get into after this video that is still pretty good, but is a little bit different. And I think you'll obviously you see that for yourself. Anyways, let's move on. So I'm going to click download, and we need it for Linux because we're going to be placing it in Kali. We're not running this on Windows or anything, just Linux. Now, I've seen other people use other packages like some Ubuntu Debs and that sort of thing, but Kali Linux is a version of Debian. And so we have Debian 6 right here. That'll work just fine. The 32-bit, which is right here, the i386, that'll work just fine. Now, if you remember what version of Kali you downloaded, then great, download that. But if you don't remember, we can bring up a terminal, do a uname, a space minus R, and there you go. It tells me I have AMD 64, so I have a 64-bit. If yours says x86 or i386, then you have a 32-bit machine, and that's what you should get. So I have already downloaded this. Now I can't remember. It's either before this or it's after. I think it's before. They make you register before you can download the file. Now, I've got the package file, but even if I gave it to you without you registering, it's not going to do any good because they have to send you a unique registration key, activation key, whatever. So make sure that whatever information that you put in there, you at least want to have a legitimate email address so that you can actually check the email and get that key. I've had many people before just type in a bunch of, blah, 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 and they don't know that they're being emailed an actual key. So do that. Anyways, once you download, I'm downloading to my root folder, and we need to stay online. Because when we go to activate it and everything, when it installs, all that stuff, after it installs, actually, it's going to pull a pretty large amount of updates and plugins and definitions and stuff. And that might take, depending on the RAM and stuff that you gave your virtual machine, it may take 10, 20 minutes even. But anyways, let's keep moving on here. I'm going to do an LS, and we see that I have a Nessus AMD 64-bit. So I'm going to do a dpkg space minus I, depackage, and then minus I for install. And then we type in the name of the deb file. And mine is the 64-bit. And I'm going to hit enter. Now, I'm not going to hit enter because I've already got it installed, but you would push enter. And it's going to take a little while, but when it's done, it's going to bring you back to a regular prompt, just like this, root at Kali. And it will probably say that it started the Nessus server. And it should give you a link. It'll actually give you an HTTP link, and it should say Kali Linux or localhost, and then it'll be a colon and then a port number. You need to remember what that is. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on that, open it up, and then we're going to bookmark it so that we remember where it is in our browser. Now, after Nessus installs, you need to kind of know how to start it and stop it. Now, when you install it, it's automatically going to start it. But /etc/init.d/Nessus and then add a D space start. Now, mine says Nessus service is already running. That's cool. If you wanted to stop it, you would do the same thing and you would just say stop. But basically, whenever we want to start Nessus, after we reboot our machines and all that stuff, later on, then we need to know how to start it. So that's how you would start it. Alright, so now let's go ahead and open it up. So I'm going to assume that you already have it installed. That .deb file that you downloaded, that should pretty much do all the work for you. It should install everything just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my browser, which is right up here. Open that up. Now I've got mine bookmarked. So I'm going to just go there, and then you would obviously go to whatever link it gave you. Mine is on port 8834, and mine's https://kali:8834. And yours will probably be something like this. Bring you to this HTML5 page or something like that. Anyways, so before you get to this point, see, I can actually log in now. It's going to ask you to create a user. And you can create whatever user you want. I just named my user Tester1. And then the password, I just use Tor, which is root backwards, so that I can remember. So after you do that, and then eventually you're going to get to a login screen, and then that's when you would log in, Tester 1, and then whatever, or whatever you decided to do. And I'm not going to check Remember Me because we may create other users in the future. So I'm just going to click Sign In. And it says I've got 6 days left, which is true. I've got 6 days left. I just also have the evaluation version. But I mean, Nessus automatic. I mean, you're going to see so much cool stuff if you've never seen this before. So once we're here, we're super close to getting our stuff done. Yes, keep in mind, I'm trying to also play it back in my mind too, that you will have to let it download. It's going to take 10-20 minutes to actually download some definitions and plugins and whatnot, so be patient with that, but eventually you will get to this point. So if you need to pause the video or whatever, you're more than welcome to. But once we are back at this point, we activated it. It asked us for our key. We went ahead and grabbed that from our email address. We should have been emailed that. We enter it in, and we're all set up. Now, what I have to do is I'm going to bring it back from my VM settings. I'm going to take my NAT and take it back to a host only. Hit save. And now I'm going to go into my etc. And I'm going to go and unhash my lab configuration. Control X. I'm going to hit Y to save and just hit enter. Perfect. Now, there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. I can try and restart my network. If config. See, I still have I have a 172 address. I'm going to try to cheat, and I'm just going to do an if config eth0 192.168.1.101. That'll give me the IP address that I want. Let me do an if config and see what it did. And it gave me that IP address, and I am on the correct. There's the net mask right there. Everything looks good. Now I'm going to try to ping my XP machine. My XP machine's right there. It's 1.106. So let me just make sure that I've got that connection back. 192.168.1.106. And we're getting replies. So now when we do our Nessus, we're not natted. It's not going to, it would return all kinds of crazy information, or it's not going to work. But I've seen it do some weird stuff. So now that we're back connected, let me see here. I've got my Nessus login, which I've already logged in. Hold on here. There we go. Alright, so we finally ended up at this point. Alright, awesome. Before we can do anything, we have to go to policies. And when we click on policies, we're going to click on new policy over here. And we're going to go through the first two. The first one's going to be host discovery. Policy name, I'm just going to name it host discovery. And visibility, private, that's fine. Description doesn't really matter, that's optional. Obviously, if we were doing a lot of scans, if we were doing multiple jobs, we might want to keep notes and that sort of thing. But we're testing this thing out, is all we're doing. Allow post scan report editing, that's fine. We'll just hit next. Host enumeration is the discovery type that we want. Yes, you can go in there and change it, but leave it at host enumeration. It'd be like doing like an Nmap scan. Hit save. And there it is. We've set our policy there. Now we got to do one more. We're going to go to new policy. Basic network scan. And this is actually going to scan for vulnerabilities. It'll scan ports, vulnerabilities, and all that sort of thing. So policy name, I'm going to name it vuln scan. And everything the same. I'm going to hit next. Scan type, I'm going to switch it from internal to external. So external, we could technically scan out of our network and all that sort of thing, like across the internet, whatever, but we could do internal, but we can use external for both, so I just set it to external. So if you would just put it on external, then we'd be on the same page. This is the last part, authentication method. Windows, we can also change it to SSH. There we go. This right here, don't worry about it. We're just going to skip this and hit save. That's just optional stuff. So there we go. Our policies are created. We're good to go. Another thing that we can look at is users. We can have multiple users. So if you wanted to add another user, you would just click this new user button right there, and then you can obviously change the type of user and all that sort of thing. If for whatever reason you need to know how to do that later on. Pretty self-explanatory. So scans, let's click on scans, and now we're going to click new scan. And host discovery or vuln scan. See, those are our two policies that we created. So the name, I'll go ahead and just put host discovery. And the targets, we can scan a range, we can scan line by line. We can also add a file. We can upload like a TXT file with a bunch of hosts that are added line by line. We could do that if we wanted to. 192.168.1. I'll say 100, and I'll do a dash 192.168.1. I'll just do like 110. I should find 106. Occasionally inside of a virtual machine, Nessus may act a little strange and actually report everything that we've asked for. It might return 10 hosts to us. Now, when we go to launch, it is now running. And we can use the pause button to pause. It's already completed, but we could have used the pause button to pause. We could have used the stop button to stop. But while this is running, we can actually click on it, or it's completed. So 101, that's me. 106, that's the XP machine. Cool. So I can actually click on the XP machine and click on info. And this thing is totally awesome. I mean, it says this plugin attempts to determine if the remote host is alive using one or more ping types. It says an ARP ping, an ICMP ping, TCP ping, UDP ping, and basically the end result is that's kind of hard to see that. The remote host is up. The host replied to an ARP who is query, and then it returned the MAC address. So pretty awesome, just informational. There's going to be different flags that we'll be seeing here in a little bit. So we can click back on hosts to return to our hosts list. We can click back on scans to get out of this. And there we go. It saved our host discovery scan if we wanted to go and look at that later. Now, I'm going to do new scan, and here's where it gets fun. I'm going to go ahead and just name it vuln scan. And you could also name it like the IP address if we knew the IP address at this point. But I'm going to change the policy to vuln scan. And now I'm going to specify 192.168.1.106 because that's what I have on the network currently. Scroll this down. I'm going to hit launch, and it's running. And then there's that pause button. There's the stop button if you needed to. And what we can do is we can just go ahead and click on this, and we can actually watch it in real time. We'll notice that the status over here, it's running. And this may take 10 minutes. It may take 20 minutes. It just depends on how you've kind of set up your VM. You know, how much RAM did you give it? You know, are you running 1 or 2 processors? You know, all that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and wait. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and then I'm going to wait for our end results, and we'll talk about what we found. Alright, the scan has completed. As we can see, status completed, and it only took 2 minutes. That's pretty good. Now, it gives us a cool little pie chart, and we can see that information is just that. It's just information. It's not really considered a vulnerability. It can give us some good info, but it's not going to tell us anything about exploits or anything like that. Over here we've got the medium. They give it as you can see, medium, high, and critical. So to look at all of this, we also have vulnerabilities up here. We have recommendations, or remediations is what they spelled there. Anyways, let's click on this thing right here. And here's where it gives us all the nice handy info. So we can obviously dig through all of this info. That's good stuff. If we really wanted to dig in, we would want to obviously gather as much info as we could. And then here's where we start getting into it. MS05-027, vulnerability in SMB. Now most of these are going to be denial of service. These vulnerabilities we can exploit and just basically cause a denial of service. We can crash the system, make it restart. We can crash the service that's on the port, depending on which one it is. But there we go. You see, we have an MS08-067. That should be very familiar to us. If we look at that, let's just click on that, and let's take a look at what it says. You can see when it was published, when it was modified. You can also see the score 10 and the CVSS score. There's like different ratings that different people give it. 8.7, that's pretty high. A 10, that's pretty high. The exploit available. Is there any known exploits available? Sometimes it will say false. Sometimes it will report just like theories to you, stuff that like the exploits don't really exist, but they know that there's a flaw and that it's possible. So it also report that stuff too. Anyways, it says exploits are available. Now here's the cool thing. Exploitable with, check it out, Metasploit. Canvas. Core Impact is another name of a program. And it tells us the CVE number. It tells us the Microsoft Security Bulletin number, or whatever they call those things. I mean, just great information. It did all of the homework for us, and all we had to do was just click a button. Solution: Microsoft has released a set of patches for Windows 2000, XP 2003, Vista, and 2008. The remote host is vulnerable to a buffer overrun in the server service that may allow an attacker to execute arbitrary code on the remote host with the system privileges, which, yes, we always get that Meterpreter system privs when we run that. That's sweet. We can also click on this technet.microsoft.com link. Just awesome stuff. Tells us the port number. Completely awesome. I mean, I love it. So now what do we do? Now we know the MS08067. Let's go back to vulnerabilities and let's click on something else like this MS11-020. Now let's see. We can do our little homework and read if we want. And this one actually says for Windows 7, 2008 R2. But let's look down here. Look at that. Exploit available. False. Exploitees. No known exploits are available. So they know it's possible, but currently in the public anyways, there are no known exploits. Let's go back to vulnerabilities. Let's pick another one. Let's pick this MS10. And this one looks like it affects XP. Well, this is the solution. Patches for Windows XP, Vista 2008, 7, and 2008 R2. The fact that it says Microsoft has released a set of patches means probably that these systems, or depending on the version, are probably vulnerable. But we can look up different information here in just a second. Are there exploits for this one? Yes, there is. Exploits are available. Exploits are available with what, though? Check it out. Metasploit and Core Impact. Now, so when we go to Metasploit, let's start up Metasploit. We go to Applications, System, go to Kali, there we go. System Services, Metasploit, and we're going to start those services. Once those are done, we're going to go ahead and launch our MSF console. Okay, MSF console. Alright, I fast forwarded there just a little bit. And so our Metasploit console is up. And let's go back and check this out. Now, we can actually copy this. This is a description. And I would be able to actually search for that. But since we have an MS number, Metasploit usually will put those as a part of their exploit names. So I'm going to copy this one. And let's go back to the Metasploit console. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a search, and then we're going to paste that in there. I'm going to do a Control-Shift-Insert. There we go. So we can see it's auxiliary DOS, Windows, SMB, and so forth. Now, what does this actually do? So let's take a look at this. We're going to highlight that, copy that, and now we're going to do an info. Paste that in there. We get a little bit more information. So the description, this module exploits a denial of service flaw. Again, like I said, denial of service. There's going to be a whole bunch of these. Windows SMB service on versions of Windows prior to the August 2010 Patch Tuesday. To trigger this bug, you must be able to access a share with at least read privileges. That generally means that you will need authentication. However, if a system has a guest accessible share, you can trigger it without any authentication. So there's your little description. If you want to know exactly what does this do, we can see obviously the rhost and SMB share. Those are required. We would need to know that. Let's look up one more. I'm not like really planning anything on this because I just want to show you how Nessus works. But let's go back to hosts. Actually, not back to hosts, but we want vulnerabilities. Okay, we just click on that. Alright. Now what happened? I don't know. It just went to something else. So, let's just... I'm clicking on things I don't even know. So, description. Remote version of Windows contains flaw. Okay. Now, this one says arbitrary code. Now, let's look down here and see... Exploits available. True. But it's only exploitable with core impact. Currently, Metasploit cannot... It doesn't have an exploit for Metasploit. Now, I'm sure you could probably find... Like if you went and you search this, like we use the exploit DB, you know, the website, and we could probably actually find this and download the actual C program, compile it, and then execute it, and that might work. Anyways, so that's kind of how you can kind of search and find what's going on without having to do a whole lot of homework. I mean, this is just really nice, really awesome stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that we can go through in here. We can also look on this section here, and action to take. It will actually recommend things that we can do. MS1 or MS11-020 vulnerability SMB server could allow remote code execution. Microsoft will release a set of patches, so it actually tells us. That's nice. And then this one 06008. Microsoft. What's surprising is it doesn't tell me about the MS08067. That's like the one that we use all the time. But anyhow, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to show you with Nessus. Obviously, you would just grab the information that it gives you, then we can then search for that inside of the Metasploit console, grab some more information, and if it looks like something that we want to go for, awesome. We could set our rhost, you know, set our whatever that is, set up the parameters, set your payload. Now this auxiliary one, there's no payload. Technically, it's not really an exploit. It's an auxiliary, but it will cause, you know, a denial of service. Either it's going to crash the server service, or, you know, make the machine reboot. There's all kinds of different ones that they actually have in Metasploit. So I'm not sure exactly which one this does. But anyhow, guys, I know it's a lengthy video, but all good information. And we're going to go over another scanner after this video. So stay tuned, and I will see you in the next vid.